Hello and welcome to the Palmer Performance Workshop. This is part 2 of fixing up my GSXR750 track bike project. So obviously the last video we went and got the bike, we've given you guys a bit of a look around it, taken the fairings off, found a few little broken bits and pieces we need to replace. This video we'll start delving a bit deeper into the engine to try and check the condition of that out and start taking more bits off, cleaning and checking stuff and see where we go from there. Stay tuned, let's get cracking. Just a quick one. I showed you guys there was a wire on the ECU that had been cut, and I actually messaged John about that because obviously he's the font of all knowledge with these things. And it turns out that's a little trick to enable you to remove the exhaust servo unit for the standard exhaust. Apparently, when you disconnect that wire, it then stops it throwing a fault. So even though this was still fitted, we can disconnect it and it doesn't throw any fault codes. I'll turn it on. You can see no FI fault. Normally an FI fault comes in where the temperature gauge is. It says FI down there if there's a fault, which it doesn't. So that's good. That means that we can pull this unit off, chuck it to one side and forget about it. Result. Right, I've switched back to my phone now for recording because I can't decide whether the Insta360 camera is any good or not for doing this sort of thing. To be honest, the phone sometimes seems better for the static recording. But anyway, decided to take the radiator off and get it out of the way and give that a quick clean and stuff while it's off. It just gives us a bit more access to everything. Throttle body's off. Just disconnected the wiring loom from the clocks and the switchgear and moved that up out of the way. We can lose this switchgear because we don't need the horn or anything, but we need to retain the clutch switch because GSXRs need those for starting. So we'll take it off at some point, strip it all out, but leave the clutch wiring in there. Rocker cover off next. Well, plugs out, rocker cover off. And then if we pull out this end cap here, that then gives us access to the end of the crank so that we can turn the engine over and check the valve clearances. You'll see I've put some little caps in the inlet, stop dirt or anything getting in there. Another good thing about taking the radiator off and everything, it means we can have a good look over the frame, make sure there's no cracks or anything, and that all looks okay. The one thing we have noticed this morning, which is not surprising really, is this lock stop has got broken off. So, but that is not a massive problem. It just means that I'll have to pull the yokes out and speak very nicely to one of my friends who does aluminium welding, get them to weld, put a bit of weld on top of that and we'll just dress it back and make it look good. That'll give us a good opportunity to check that the yokes are straight at the same time. I think they will be, but whilst they're out we can sort of make sure they're okay. And obviously we'll have the forks out so we can check that they're straight as well. But anyway, let's crack on with this valve clearance check because all of it is fairly pointless unless we know the engine's okay. All the plugs are out. Colour wise they look pretty nice. The tips are a little bit worn, so we will put some fresh ones in anyway, just because we don't really know how old these are. But yeah, so far so good. See, one thing I always use a lot of are these plastic trays, which actually I mean they're just a generic sort of household plastic tray, but they're kind of what I use for stripping things onto. So obviously doing the valve clearances now, just strip the rocker cover off. This is really like a miniature version of the GSXR1000 engine that we had apart on the last videos. So all looking pretty reasonable, no nasty wear or anything on any of the cam lobes. So we'll get the old feeler gauges out and have a measure up. So I've got my little spec sheet that I print out when I'm doing valve clearances for people. Obviously we've got the spec on there which I've got from the manual, which for the inlet is 0.08 to 0.18 of a millimetre. I've got my feeler gauge set. I've got the engine turned so the inlet cam number 1, the lobes are pointing away from the follower, or the tip of the lobe if you like is pointing away from the follower. And then what I normally do is I normally start small, so I'm going to start on a 0.10 shim, 0.10 feeler, gauge, you can see there, and literally you're just going to poke it under the lobe and make sure it moves freely between the lobe and the follower, which that one does. So we'll now go up to the next size, which on this particular gauge set is 0.13. Same again. Okay, so that won't actually go in. It will if I push hard. So basically that means that those two valves, the lights will stop flashing, are 0.10 clearance, or certainly greater than 0.10. So that's within specs, that's good. It's not the tighter end. Normally I'd expect them to be near the lower end of clearance anyway, but 0.10 is absolutely fine. So now we'll move on to the next cylinder, which will be number 2. We've just got to turn the engine over slightly. And again, so the tip of the lobe is facing away from the follower. There we go. Get the old gauges out again. Right, let's try the 0.13 straight off to start with. No. Let's try the 0.1 again. Yeah, and that fits in beautifully. So let's write that down. Excuse my scrappy handwriting. Right, now with the firing order of 4-cylinder stuff, the next little bit that I turn the engine over will actually bring number 4 cylinder to the top. So we'll do that one next. There we go. I'm just going to go straight for the 0.10 again. That's always a good sign. If they all kind of measure the same, then generally sort of a good indication that there's not any issues or anything anywhere. Yeah, right, that's the same. 0.10, 0.10. And then we've just got number 3 cylinder left to do. I bet they're going to be 0.10 as well. Yeah, so I mean that's a really good sign that everything is good in there, because they all measure the same. If there was like one which was a whole load looser or a whole load tighter, then that could indicate a problem, but they are absolutely spot on. So now we've done the inlets, we'll switch over and do the exhausts. The spec is always slightly bigger. The clearance is always slightly bigger on the exhaust, mainly because the exhaust valves run hotter than the inlet valves because they've got hot exhaust gases running past them. So we'll do that, and then we'll have a look and see what they come out with and go from there. And all the exhaust ones came out at 0.20, so that was all spot on. That's you know, really happy with that. Kind of a really good indication that the engine's in good order. So we'll get the rocker cover bolted back on. A little bit of sealant required just around where the half moons are, and we'll just clean up this edge and give the rocker cover a quick clean, give the gasket a quick wipe down. Rocker cover gaskets are reusable within reason. When they get really old, they might start falling apart and whatnot, but that one looks okay, should clean up fine. So we'll get that bolted back on, and then I think we will probably do a compression check or leak down check. So we decided in the end just to do a quick compression check. So got the old compression tester out and just testing each cylinder, pulling the inlet cap out and cranking it over with the compression tester wound in. We checked all 4, and all 4 were the same across the board, really healthy pressure up in the sort of 160s, 170s PSI, which is all good. So now we can concentrate on getting the bike back in one piece. I've taken the old left-hand switchgear off. Like I said, we don't need it. What we do need to keep is this bit, which is what goes into the clutch switch. Now, on some bikes, you could probably just bypass it, but if I remember right with the GSXRs, if you permanently join these, then it ends up I can't remember what it does. It might be something like it stops the top injectors working or something. So basically you lose power because it thinks that you've got the clutch in all the time. So you have to retain it. But basically, if you look, it's got two black wires, one with a white trace, one with a yellow trace. And they are in the middle of the plug here. So we need to keep that, but we can dump the rest of it. So what I'm going to do, I've snipped the cable tie which holds that sheathing here. I want to keep the sheathing because that tidies it up and protects the wire. So I'm just going to pop the pins out of all of these, other than the ones we're keeping. And basically you just get a little screwdriver in there. Excuse the state of my hands because the wiring is quite dirty. And you just push that little clip down and the wires will pull out the back. So we'll do that now and see where we end up. That's the majority of the wires pulled out. You can see one of the wires is shared between the clutch switch and the switchgear. So we just need to snip that off and take the end, and then that'll get hidden up in the wiring. But yeah, that's basically it on that. Having said that though, this sheathing's a little bit on the large side, so in my sort of wiring odds and ends I've got some slightly smaller stuff. So I'll swap that over, tidy it up a bit. There we go, from that mess to that nice little neat setup there. All about the little touches. Right, let's get that plug back in. I need to order the spark plugs before we put the rest of it together, but the rocker cover's all back on and clean. Silicone caps on. Get the radiator cleaned up next, I think. Yeah. Next up, it's time to do some cleaning jobs. And although the radiator is pretty clean, we're going to give it a clean anyway, just to sort of show you guys how we'd normally clean a radiator. Obviously it has tweaked the bracket slightly, but nothing major, and it still sits nice and square on the bike. But one thing that's worth checking, you know, if you had a crash and the radiator's had a little push or whatever, if you've still got radiator fans fitted, it's just worth checking that it still spins and it's not, you know, rubbing on the radiator anywhere, because the amount of times I've seen that where the bike's had a bit of a crash, it's still got a rad fan on it, and then the next time it sort of gets hot enough and the rad fan kicks in, the rad fan then ends up rubbing through the cores and then knackering your radiator. So well worth checking that. But obviously, because we're going to wash it, we'll take that off and out of the way. We'll now take this outside. I've got like a spilling coolant everywhere now. I thought I got most of it out. I've got like a large rubber mat which just goes down on the concrete for cleaning things like this. So we'll head outside and we will give this a bit of a clean. So this is my little tip really with radiators: alloy wheel cleaner. It does a really good job of sort of getting the dirt and grime out of them. So I'm literally just going to spray that all over the front side of it. Normally don't worry about the back so much. Obviously most radiators are alloy, so alloy wheel cleaner is kind of the perfect thing for giving them a freshen up. And then what I've also got, which you've got to be a little bit careful with, is one of these sort of cleaning brushes, but it's really, really soft, really, really long. So it's really easy to bend the fins on these. And basically, I'll just give it a little bit of a rub in the direction of the fins, just to kind of agitate the cleaning product. Might need a bit of water on it as well, to be fair. And again, with water, I don't tend to pressure wash them because you can bend the fins with that. So literally just using a hose attachment. You see it's already lifted quite a lot of dirt. Obviously, the cleaner a radiator is, the more efficient it is as well, because any dirt on it sort of stops it transferring heat as well, or exchanging heat as well. So, you know, if you've got an older track bike, which sort of seems to run a little bit on the hot side, it might just be worth taking the radiator off and giving it a bit of a clean. Anyway, right, I'm going to let that sit for a few minutes and let all the the wheel cleaner do its job, and then we'll give it another little brush and a rinse off. When we rinse it off, I'm going to put a little bit on the back as well actually. When we rinse it off, tend to rinse it through the cores. Obviously if you're using quite a nice hose attachment like mine, you can get it quite close and just rinse it out from the back to the front. So obviously most of the dirt on the radiator has come from this side, so we want to push it back out the way it's come. So anyway, we'll give it a couple of minutes, we'll give it a rinse through. What's always amazing with these things is how much water they actually end up holding when you've rinsed them through like that. So you kind of have to give them a bit of a shake to get it out, but it's not come out too bad really. You consider the age of the bike and everything, looks all right. So yeah, we'll give it a really good shake now to get the worst of the water out, and then we'll give it a little blow through with the air compressor again, making sure not to get too close because we don't want to bend the fins. And then we'll give it a chance to dry out and get it back on the bike. First little delivery of new parts has arrived. So we've got a new oil filter. This is one of the racing type ones. If I can get the box open. Why do they always make these things so difficult? Probably because I'm only using one hand. So yeah, the racing type, and it's got like the little nut bit on the end with your hole for lock wire. Set of new spark plugs, NGK. I blew the budget a little bit and bought a magnetic sump plug, nice drilled one to replace the one that's in there, and then just a high flow standard replacement filter. Like, yes, I know a race filter would probably show a couple more horsepower on the dyno, but you know, these, in some ways I'd rather use a standard filter and replace it more often and know that we're getting decent filtration than sort of spend 80-90 quid on a race filter, which generally race filters do not filter as well as a standard paper type. So for engine longevity, when you're not racing, a standard filter is actually sometimes the better way to go. But anyway, we'll get the plugs in and bolt it up. Another thing, sometimes you see people for some reason think that putting copper grease all over the threads of a spark plug is a good idea. It is not. They are not meant to be put in with any grease. They are just meant to be bolted in as they are. So yeah, we'll get those in, carry on with our cleaning jobs. And I think that'll do for part 2. In part 3, we'll do some more cleaning, show you the sort of products and stuff that we use, and then hopefully we'll have some more new parts arrive. We can start bolting some things on and getting the bike straightened out, and we'll see where we go from there. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. See you next time.